We begin with...
The Cerritos has just entered the orbit of Krolmuth B.
That's right, we're animated. A crossover between Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds. Don't worry, this isn't going to be a Who Framed Roger Rabbit situation. As this begins with the Lower Decks characters, it's being done in the Lower Decks way at the start, anyway. For those who don't follow that show, first, don't watch the first 2 episodes. They're crap. Second, do watch all the rest of the episodes. Third, the guy in the purple hair is Boimler, the ensign who loves Starfleet slightly more than is healthy. His sarcastic colleague is Ensign Mariner, who took the phrase, fuck around and find out, and made it a life philosophy. Boimler's excited because they're checking out a portal that was discovered 120 years earlier by Pike and his Enterprise crew. Equally eager are Rutherford and Tendi, who insist the portal wasn't discovered by the Enterprise, but by Orion scientists, one of whom was her grandmother. But Rutherford's especially excited about the traces of special stuff here, which was once used to make the original NX-01. This is all very scientific and technical.
Guys, the ancient thing is doing a thing!
Well, Boimler gets sucked into the portal and emerges with considerably more depth now. After the titles, which are completely animated, that's a wonderful and unexpected bonus, Pike mentions in his log that there's been a time traveler. Damn ship's full of them. Boimler's reaction...
computer and program?
...confuses them.
Never mind.
And possibly annoys them. Una gives back his comm badge, warning not to misplace his advanced technology, and... Is he standing on a crater or something? I had no idea Boimler was a giant. While number one wonders if he knows something about her future the way he reacts to her, La'an is very familiar with the protocols after her time-traveling romance, so as Rocket Raccoon and I Am Groot here head off, she reminds him of the rules for his situation, and advises him not to develop any personal attachments to avoid destroying his future, or even his sanity.
What are you doing?
So while he's having a blast, Uhura asks him to leave since she's trying to work and his fanboying of her, and the saddle for that matter, are getting in the way. So he gets called down to join in examining the portal with Spock and M'Benga, which, since it's been called out, yes, I pronounce it wrong, but unlike my objection to the Silver Surfer's name, this is to protect you, because I just can't quite pronounce it correctly. I sound too much like Homer Simpson craving a snack food. Benga. They find the special material that likely briefly powered the portal, only the Enterprise has picked up an Orion ship, which looks harmless, but as La'an notes, some are made to look harmless right before they harm you. Boimler identifies it as an Orion scout ship, but in the difficult position of having to be a 24th century politically correct person about Orions, in the 23rd century in an area where Orion pirates have been operating recently. But there's also the fact that one of his best friends might be wiped from existence if there's a fight right now. Boimler says that he has reason to believe they're not pirates, and they say, yes, we're a science vessel, not pirates.
The Orions have beamed up the portal.
They're thieves. Well, no, I suppose it doesn't count as theft if it no longer belongs to anyone because the owners are extinct. Except it's wrong because we're not finished looking at it yet. Not sure what they plan to do with it. Doubt they'll bring it to a lab or put it in a museum or anything. Pirate culture doesn't really go big on museums. It's more of an imperial thing. An Empire's museum is really their version of scrapbooking. Pike admits that he allowed the hero worship to affect him, but not the way you might be thinking. It helped to mitigate the certitude of his own horrible future. My personal future might be bad, but my legacy will be remarkable, so it's comforting. Meanwhile, after giving Boimler shit because, as Mariner has proven, it's ridiculously easy, he finds it hard to believe they're not more excited about being in this time. It's the golden age of exploration, not the, well, we should fill in a few of the fine details on the map, I suppose, age that he's in. Speaking of age...
Is that something you're doing for Captain Pike's birthday?
It's his birthday on Friday? How do you know his birthday?
Well, I mean, in the future, his birthday's a holiday.
But not a big one. Just the banks and post office are closed. It's not like Captain Picard Day with the parade or anything. What has him worked up is the sight of Spock smiling. Spoiler warning for stuff that we didn't cover. Spock and Chapel are an item now, and he's kind of open about how happy that makes him. Boimler's worried that this is the result of saying something Spock found funny, and that it's going to butterfly effect and he'll get home to find out horrible stuff has happened in the future. Much sooner that horrible stuff will happen in the future, I mean. Chapel explains what's been happening, and Boimler feels like an ass, but not to worry, it's a familiar feeling. On the bridge, trying to sort out the mess he made when Spock says he can't track the Orions, Boimler says he can use his future knowledge without altering history by doing it while all their backs are turned. So they catch up, but Boimler explains, despite Pike's objections, that Tendy's grandmother is aboard and a fight could erase her from existence.
Diplomacy is one of your many, many strengths. That and patience, forgiveness, benevolence, really great hair.
Well, consider the source. So Pike tries diplomacy.
Captain Pike, what a remarkable coincidence running into you here.
Almost as remarkable as your really great hair. They're willing to discuss the matter, but it's going to be touchy.
Ideas, not you.
It's going to have to be the grain. The stuff that was supposed to go to that colony in trouble, but it's either that or keep Boimler around, so Pike gives them the grain. There's enough of the special stuff for one last trip, and after a heartfelt goodbye...
Oh, hell yeah! I did it! Mariner!
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
Well, Mariner proceeds to Mariner all over the place, while Pike tries to deal with the fact that Boimler was veteran mode, dealing with time-traveling Mariner as Dark Souls prepare to die. With none of the special material left, there's no way to open another portal. Mariner suggests just making some more of it. Spock says it might be possible, but it could be extremely dangerous. So she volunteers Boimler to help Spock with that, while she'll go help Uhura with the translations. Boimler tries in vain to stop Mariner from bringing her everything into the 23rd century, because being stuck here means living off the grid to avoid destroying the future, and we know Mariner can't do that, and they'll both wind up getting eaten by Langoliers or something. Una comes by wondering why the hell these two are acting this way towards her, so Mariner lets slip that Boimler has a poster of her in his bunk.
You mean like a pinup poster? It's a poster that is pinned up.
That brings up an interesting point. Are there regulations on what would be allowed to be up in view of others? What am I saying? Of course there is. If the manual on screwing aliens is 3 centimeters thick, the one on what you can and can't hang up around your bunk is probably multi-volume. Speaking of stuff that should be covered up, Mariner can't stop gushing to Uhura about things that Uhura hasn't done yet, which is a lot of pressure to put on an ensign. So when Mariner drags her down to the club and mixes drinks, Uhura keeps working until she's finally talked into downing her space martini, at which it's noted that the symbols look like those in a Domjot set, and that's the clue that the writing is actually an ancient Nausicaan, part of their rich and vibrant culture. As for Spock, he's deduced from Chapel's reaction that Boimler said something about Spock's future, suggesting that his experiments in human emotion will end in failure, and that's worrying to hold before someone who has embraced the possibility of happiness to learn that they will choose a life without happiness. Really, there's no telling what that could mean.
Do you feel lucky?
Well, it may surprise you to learn that the project fails badly. So Boimler goes to chill with Peli at the warp core. For those who don't watch, Boimler thinks the warp core is the best part of the ship, so this is perfectly in character for him. Pelia says, yeah, that grain that Pike gave away for the portal that they can't even use. Without it, the colonists will have to be relocated. Can't get that many people to survive going gluten-free. But when she sees how down Boimler is at being so outclassed by all his heroes, she quotes Cary Grant.
I always pretended to be someone I wanted to be. Until finally, I became that someone. Or he became me.
Well, Boimler gets an idea and sneaks into a shuttle, only to find Mariner's already in there. So he explains his plan. they'll trade the portal back to the Orions for the grain, since they can't make the portal work anyway. Why let those colonists relocate or worse, have to eat vegan? Only Uhura picked it up and blocked it while La'an shows up with a phaser. They're dragged down to Pike's quarters, where he announces they're going to be confined until he can dump their displaced asses off at Starbase 1 and be somebody else's problem. He also asks them to please stop encouraging the crew to throw him a surprise party. He actually has plans. He wants to spend it alone, reminiscing about the father that he didn't have enough time to patch things up with before he passed. But Boimler makes a surprisingly astute point that if something were to happen to Pike himself, how many people would wish they had one more day with him as well? Well, as Pike muses about how he might be if he were in their position, sent back onto the NX-01, Boimler realizes the answer.
So I'd like to apologize to you all with a limerick.
He's past that. Boimler notes that the special material needed is part of an alloy in the NX-01, and whenever a new ship is being built, tradition is that a piece of the last ship to bear its name is used in its construction. So there's a piece of that Enterprise in this Enterprise, and Mariner actually knows where it is. So they pull it out and separate out the material. And Mariner corrects Una's misunderstanding. Boimler does have a poster of her, but it's not cheesecake. It's actually a recruitment poster. She went from being nearly convicted of sedition to being the literal poster image of a Starfleet ideal. Even the phrase ad astra per aspera. Well, after that, there's only one thing left to say.
Live long and prosper, Mr. Boimler.
Inspirational until the end. Except for the fact the Orions did get the message and showed up to take the portal again. So they come clean, and naturally the Orions don't believe their story. But the mention of Tendy's Orion pirate name, or whatever it actually is, and not to mention knowing that someone named Tendy is aboard, gets across that they're legitimate. And what's more, Pike will let history record their success. In fact, going forward, we're going to celebrate these people. We're going to call this the TOS era, Trailblazing Orion Scientists. So they go back to the animated Lower Decks world, and in fact, after drinking some of those special Orion drinks at Pike's birthday party, the Enterprise crew starts to feel a little flatter than usual.
My arms don't normally do this.
My eyes feel huge. Do my eyes look huge?
What the hell is in these things?
Those Old Scientists is the trials and tribulations of the 21st century, a crossing of past and future, genuinely funny, and capitalizes on the similarities and differences in the two shows. Both of these two shows leave behind the darkness that has marked other more recent Trek outings, allowing it to avoid a clash of styles, yet the differences provide the comedic possibilities of it. Now, comedy naturally is subjective, but to me it hits the marks, with Boimler and Mariner being themselves, and Pike and company being exasperated with them being themselves. Jonathan Frakes directs, and he really knew what this took. There's a lot of shots and actions that they're not unnatural, but you can kind of see the cartoon influence, particularly when Boimler raises his hand to offer a suggestion, helpfully exaggerated because of his build. If Star Trek ever decides to bring Slender Man in, I think we know who should play him. Those Old Scientists was the episode I was most looking forward to seeing in this season, and let me tell you, it was well worth the wait.
Ideas, not you.
Fair? Can you please tell Captain Pike that the Orions want to trade? They see it as a sign of respect.
You know I can hear you. I'm standing right here.